Okay, so I've opened a project in Revit and I've loaded the myCAD Power Tel-Data families into the project. There are 4 different families. There is a switch, power, Tel-Data, communications, and then power and Tel-Data for the floor. And you can see over here the graphics in the 3D view. So let's take a look at the switches first. So I'll click on the switch family, go over to my type selector, and you can see there's a bunch of types within the family. So I'm currently looking at the single switch. Here's a double. You can see 2 symbols shown in plan. There's also a triple and a quad. Also notice in 3D the graphics updating accordingly. There's also for the single switches a bunch of various options like three-way dimmer, a bunch of different options there for you. So notice with the dimmer and these specialty ones that text also appears on the screen at the same time. We built the families so that you could incorporate what we called a plan label. So when I go to the type parameters for this, you can see that there's a parameter here called show plan label, and whatever you type here will be displayed on the screen right next to that. And the plan label, if you notice, also has a question mark over here. Not only can it display this value, it can also display this value here, which we call the height label. So if I wanted it to display 48 inches on the screen, I just have to type that value in. So a lot of flexibility in the graphics there. The next family was the duplex, or the power family. So within that there is a duplex type, and when I click on the list you can see that there's also a quad. Again, watch the graphic in plan and in the 3D view, and again lots of different variations like an emergency, GFI, junction box, a bunch of different variations. So behind the scenes the program is switching between the symbol and just applying a different label on the plan as required. Each of these has mounting heights. You'll notice here in a 3D view, so that's controlled by just clicking on the object and using this offset parameter for height above level. So if I type in that parameter, you can see it move in 3D. Now notice the height here didn't change. There was no way to automatically tie those together, so you'll just have to type in those values on the screen to update that symbol. Alright, so the next symbol is the Tel-Data, so we'll click on that one and I'll scroll down the list so you can see it. So there's a data by itself, Tel-Data combined, telephone by itself, and then a couple other options for 2 and 3 and 4 outlets. So you can see a number there with the plan label and also the graphic on the screen. So if I click on that and change it to Tel-Data 4, you can see the behind the scenes graphic updates accordingly. The next family is the communications family. So this is intended for any other types of things that might be mounted on the wall. So if I click on this, and I'll just go back to the top of the list here, what we built in were interchangeable symbols. So I have a circle symbol. You can click on that and display a circle or a square or a combination of the two. Okay, circle, square, or a combination of two, and a couple different sizes of those are available for you. Okay, so not only can you change those, you can also then apply plan labels using the same sort of option as we did before. So plan label, show the plan label, which gives you the additional graphics. So in addition to these generic names, circle and square, we built in a few such as CTV for cable TV, and it uses the square and a specific plan label. And not only do you have the control of the graphics in the plan view, we also have a cover plate family built into it. So there's a bunch of different cover plates that you can choose from on the list. So we've already built a bunch of those. If I go to cover plate A and I'll click OK, it changes to, in this case, a square symbol, and here's the graphic in the 3D view. Let me click on the next one. So we had about 10 different graphics, I think, in there to allow you to change those to whatever you want. So the intention is that you would just rename these families to whatever the intended use would be in your office, and then you can leverage all the different graphics that are there. We also have a couple floor-based families. And I shouldn't say floor-based, these aren't hosted. So I'll click on that symbol down there. Currently it's showing a floor power quad. I'll scroll up a little bit. We also have duplex and special, and then we have a Tel-Data one here where you can change the number of outlets on it. So there's Tel-Data 3. So that's a quick look at the 6 different families. Now a couple subtle things to make note of. These families are not hosted families when you are placing them for the first time. So if I go to one of these options like this switch, and when you place these for the first time, you can place them anywhere you want. They are not hosted. There's been a big problem with a lot of offices with hosted families, because if you delete the host, then all the elements go away, and you can see that's obviously not the case with these. Now, somebody might argue that hosting is better because if you move the host, these objects move with it, and that can happen with these families as well. If you select them, there's an option called Moves with Nearby Elements, so that way if you do move the nearby element, those objects move along with it. So these are non-hosted families, so they won't get accidentally deleted when you're using them. Another option that we built in for you, sometimes we know that as you're laying out different walls, you're going to have symbols that need to line up in elevation directly on top of each other, which would mean that in plan things won't read very well. So you can see this switch and this outlet. What if this outlet needed to be directly underneath? I'll slide this over here and you can see it's directly underneath. And now the symbol in plan doesn't read well. Obviously the elevation is fine. So we built a mechanism to address that. If I click the outlet, and you could do it with either one, I'll just click this outlet here. We built in these shift options, plan side shift and plan symbol wall shift. So if I want to pull that symbol off to the side a little bit, leaving this still lined up, I just have to click on this side shift and just click and use positive numbers here. So if I override it by about that much, and it's just kind of trial and error to know what integer number there to use. So you can apply that, and you can control how far the symbol goes off to the side. If I want the symbol to be on the other side, you just click on it and the little reverse grip will allow you to flip it the other way. So not only do we have the option to shift it to the side, let me put that back to 0. We also have the option to shift it away from the wall. So if I click on this one, here's the wall shift. I'll click on that, and let's try that value and hit apply. And that looks like it shifted far enough away. So when you have symbols on top of each other in elevation, we can get nice clean plan graphics. The other thing you might need to do when organizing your plan is the label. Sometimes you don't want it exactly there and you want the freedom to move it wherever you want. So rather than using the plan label, you could go to the type and turn that off. You could use a tag that we built. So if you go to the Annotate tab and use the Tag by Category command, you can point to the object and tag it. So this just placed that tag, and as you can see, you can freely move that wherever you want rather than be directly below that symbol. So when I click on that tag, you can also change that tag family between several types. So this is one that's called the type label, there's one that's a height label, and there's one that displays both of them. So this gives you the freedom to place the annotation wherever you want. And these symbols do update and plan as you change the scale. So if you note the relative size of the symbols relative to the door and that, and I change my scale over to 1/8 inch and zoom back in, you can see the symbol sizes do update so that you'll be able to plot them and it'll look good in the different scales. Now obviously you just have to reposition the tag, and you might have to adjust those shifts a little bit to make it look better. So that is a look at the myCAD Power Tel-Data symbol libraries. Thanks for watching.